faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird brain, it's a plane, it's iWalter. Yes, it's iWalter, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. iWalter, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend ears with his annoying voice, and who disguised as Walter Interranti, mild-mannered janitor for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, nonsense, and the American way. And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of iWalter.
Today in school, I learned a lot. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me. In English, I learned that I'm disgusting. And in physics, I learned that I'm a loser.
Today in school, I learned that I'm ugly and useless. And in gym, I learned that I'm pathetic and a joke. In history, I learned that I'm trash.
Today in school, I learned that I have no friends. In English, I learned that I make people sick. And at lunch, I learned that I sit on my own because I smell. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me.
In biology, I learned that I'm fat and stupid. And in math, I learned that I'm trash.
The only thing I didn't learn in school today?
The only thing I didn't learn today?
The only thing I didn't learn?
Is why no one ever helps.
Kids witness bullying every day. They want to help, but they don't know how. Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
Hey everyone, this is Walter from iWalter. Yeah, I wanted to play that intro, by the way. I thought it was very important that I do so. And the reason for that was, sorry about that, is because making sure I'm getting an okay level. I guess I am. Yeah, I guess I am. Because I'm kind of already like tired of hearing people, negatively speaking about this kid, with the school shooting. I mean, I'm not saying that, I defend what he did. Cruz, what is his name? Nicholas Cruz. But some of the stuff I've read so far has been so uncomfortably disturbing. And, and I heard another one tonight when I finally got out of the house because I worked some overtime yesterday. I worked 10 hours of overtime, so I'm a little burned out. I'm actually very burned out. But yeah, it started with a response to something I put up about the situation on Facebook, and I just hear it on the news constantly, and it just gets worse and worse. So, I felt compelled I needed to do this. Today was President's Day, or is President's Day. My one friend was worried I was going to spend more money, find reasons to spend money on the sales going on. Well, I didn't spend any money, to my friend Matt. I actually, on Saturday, though, it was last week, I ordered it online for Micro Center. Was some of these guys I work with have these gaming laptops. But gaming laptops are basically PC-based. Like, actually, all of them are. So I looked around and I got one from Micro Center. It's a different story, and was fooling around with that. It was actually fun because I got all these damn consoles and I play them a little bit and I get tired of them. But some of those PC games that you can only exclusively get for PCs. You can actually pick it up and play it for a little bit and you can put it down and that's the end of it. And you play it with other people too, which is really interesting. And plus, I know I'm going sidetrack for a minute. You use a keyboard, which I really like. And I was surprised because these new gaming computers that are laptops are actually incredibly fast. I was actually really shocked. They're really big and heavy, but they do the job better than I did years ago, like 20 years ago, playing these games. Different set of games, too. And by the way, since I'm on the subject of games, that's another thing that really bothered me. They're trying to blame video games and stuff for this outburst in violence for the last decade or whatever it is. And it's like, that is far from the truth, because when I was a little kid, like, I hate to reminisce, I had seen movies that were incredibly violent. I mean, they were beyond violent. They were horrible, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I'm going to use as an example. Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween. I'm trying to think. Oh, My Bloody Valentine, whatever, which just passed, but the holiday. And I'm trying to think what else. There was, Guardians. No, sorry about that. Galaxy of Terror. That was like beyond. It was so gory, actually. My dad had taken me. I was like 13 years old or whatever, and I was too young to actually get in at all. But they let me in. Even then they didn't bother to check your age. And my dad had taken me. He was so disturbed by the film. He said, and he's very frugal with his money. Like, he's really tight with a buck. He's been like that since I could ever remember. And I do remember this time he was so grossed out by the film. He said, listen, if you want to go see another film, I don't mind paying for it. He just wanted to get out of there. And I was like, no, I'm fine with this. So I just did it because I enjoyed seeing my dad squirm, seeing this horrible movie. But the bottom line is I didn't go out and kill people. So that's a bunch of nonsense. That's my opinion, though. So I had to do a little research, more so on what I was talking to a younger guy I work with, and, we were discussing about what makes a person, I guess, a killer, and we were discussing our personal upcomings. His was different from mine. He's younger than me. And I was actually really shocked because I said, you know what, you just shot everything out the window, because I assumed if you came from a nuclear family, a perfect family, this stuff does not go on. It only happens in broken families or single parents, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, well, I actually came from a broken family and single parent. And I was like, wow, you really just blew my mind with that, because you're beyond normal, whatever normal may be. The guy's got he's very level-headed, very responsible on what he talks about, and so it just I don't know. I was glad to see that, though. And he's a millennial too. He even said, yeah, I'm in the millennial age. He's not the millennials that you want to just throw out the window. He's actually a very level-headed, very intelligent, decent looking guy, knows what he's talking about, and basically speaks very clear and concise. The stuff that he reads, as far as paper clippings, as I would call them, because I'm not going to use the word, I'm going to mess up. I'll try peer articles. The stuff you can read is like, above most normal people's reading level, in my opinion. So this guy, and he's only in his early 20s, so I was like, wow, this is incredible. That's another thing I wanted to mention. I did try to put some posts on this, and I do have some sound bites that I found very disturbing with Nicholas Cruz. Well, okay, one is, and it's these kids that, had went to a school, knew this guy, 19-year-old, and the response to me was kind of very disturbing. So I want to play that. It was on, actually, Bill O'Reilly had a free show. Actually, Rush had one the other day, too, that, you don't have to subscribe if you missed the show. Like, you can listen to it for free as opposed to having to pay for it, which I already do, so it's no big deal either way for both those guys, Bill O'Reilly and Rush Limbaugh. But this one soundbite was, to me, I felt very disturbing, and there's another one where Bill O'Reilly kind of explains what happened to this kid, in his opinion, why he, basically went AWOL, so to speak. I know it's a military term, but I kind of wanted to play that as well. But actually, again, the reason I wanted to do this show tonight, I'm very tired. But my purpose for doing this, how long it may be, I don't know, was one, I did, like I said, I posted on my Facebook account about this kid shooting up all these people. I didn't know all the facts myself. I just assumed one thing and I stuck with. This kid had obviously some serious problems. But I think your gut reaction is like, oh, this person is evil, he should die and stuff like that. But I think from even the first time I saw somebody respond, oh, this guy's totally evil, I responded by making LOL and literally just laugh. And it's like, you really think that short-minded that automatically you just assume this is a monster. This is not a human being. This is a monster. And I think the thing that really tipped iceberg for me is the response on one of the things I posted. And, it's some woman I actually respect. I don't know her. It's a friend of a friend in real life. So it's not one of these internet friends that you've never met. But her response was just like horrific, in my opinion. She said, just kill him. Just kill the man. And it was like, wow, you really have that little value on a person's life. I don't care who it is. I know what he did was wrong, but that just seemed awful. That seemed awful. I did talk to this guy yesterday, and I said, when I thought about it, because I'm much older than he is. I'm like old enough to be his father. And I let him know, don't jump to conclusions. Unless you know all the facts about a person, I don't want you to think that I am okay with just basically executing somebody for, because that's going to settle the problem. To a point, maybe it will, but in the other sense, that doesn't make you any better than the person who did this heinous crime, in my opinion. So that's why I wanted to clarify it with this guy, because, he's at that age. He's not quite, he's very intelligent, but he's still, his values are still kind of being molded, so to speak, in my opinion, because there's something about age being a factor on how people rationalize things. And I was surprised because he talked about this too, and I heard it on one of the radio shows, either Rush or Bill O'Reilly. And I was going to actually look for the soundbite. Like this time I'm going to try to do it on my own and look up what I've heard. And for men or guys, your brain is not fully developed until you're 25. I have it in this mix. For girls, it's 21. Like you really, are, and so to speak in layman's terms, you're not thinking very clearly until you're, for a man, 25, and for a woman, there's certain parts of your brain are still developing. So, and it does cloud your judgment. Like you're not thinking as clearly, as cognitively as you should be. So I'm doing a very bad job, but I did find some links. I could probably just mention those because I saved them to my Word program. So that was really like that. That was the main one that got to me. Listening, I'm going to play this soundbite hopefully soon. Maybe I should play it now and get it out of the way. And by the way, in the beginning, I played just to let people know where these monsters are created. And I'm telling you, in my opinion, this is why I wanted to do a show. It's actually created from people's ignorance. And the worst is when you're in school. Like, and this guy I talked to yesterday, I had to agree with him, over 100%, but 100% because the atmosphere in college was much different for me than it was in high school. High school was so bad that I ended up not going to school at all, and I got not homeschooled, but kind of I did. Not from my parents, but from a teacher who was willing to give me tutoring at home because I just could not go to school. It was just so bad. So, yeah, I mean, there is a lot of truth to this. That's why I played that, and I hope if you have not heard that, you should listen to the beginning of, beyond the intro, of this anti-bullying commercial I found. I heard it on the radio, and it's like I had to look for it, and I found it, luckily enough, right away. So the point is, yeah, you need to listen to that because, and I've seen these articles, these people who turn into these mass murderers or do these mass shootings in their high schools are kids that were bullied. They were like not the most attractive looking kid in school. They were the outcasts and they were bullied. And that, you push someone, anything, animal, person, or anything against a wall, your natural fight or flight instinct kicks in and it will turn into a violent act. I hate to tell people. I'm not expecting people to agree with me. I'm just saying this is pretty much the truth. So anyway, let me do this now. I want to play this segment from two of his fellow students from Nicholas Cruz's high school. Bill O'Reilly played this. So I ripped that. And it's, to me, that was more disturbing. I mean, people getting murdered is extremely disturbing, but hearing people's, point of view of this kid before he did this act is even more uncomfortable for me to listen to. So, but I'm going to play it now for other people and let them decide what they think. So here we go. I'm going to play this right now.
He was kind of an outlier, kid that was like always wanting friends, but he could never get in a group of friends. He was always like a juvenile delinquent type of kid. I know that when he was younger, his mom died. So he moved in with his grandma, and his grandma died, so he had to go to a foster home. And he's been living there before this happened.
There was multiple times he's always just been so destructive and like not all there. Like I was never mean to him. Like every time I would see him, I would say hi to him. But at the same time, like the thought of me like being around that kid, like it's kind of scary.
Okay, so I hope you see what I heard, if that makes any sense. Like, it seemed very negative. Like, both these students that were fellow students of him, like, they just had nothing good to say about him. Like, they were shocked or anything. They were just, obviously, they treated this kid, in my opinion, as an outcast before this even happened. Like, to me, that's just like fuel in the fire. Like, this kid had a lot of problems, issues, and instead of, hey, what's going on or anything like that, nobody seemed to care. Now, when something happens, then all of a sudden, this is a big deal. Hey, you see what this kid did? He's a monster. And I started talking about something, and I didn't finish it. When I was talking to this younger guy at my job, I told him, I remember, and he knew right what I was talking about. He knew right where I was going. I said, Mary Shelley, because I remember learning about this in college. Most people even learn about this in high school. But the way the professor had taught it to us, we talked about Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. The professor, I'll never forget this, my professor, his name was Kurt Herr, mentioned that the monster was not the creation, that the creature that was created. That was not the monster. The real monster was Victor Frankenstein himself. So, well, how does this pertain to what happened? Well, very simply, you create life. Someone creates life, having a child, whatever, and you just leave it out to fend for itself before it can even take care of itself, the child. And the child becomes what other people portray as the monster. They make that person, because the creature was a person, that person into the monster. They don't look at the real monster, which would be themselves or the creator. They look at the person who does not know right from wrong or has been mistreated as the monster. So do you see where I'm going with this? I hope so. I don't think so, but I certainly hope so. So, again, all I hear about is the one side of this issue, is the outcome. I don't see what led up to the outcome. So, what are you supposed to do in life to prevent things? You make preventive measures. I didn't see any in the place of this kid or any. I looked up and there was other incidents where the kids look like they had the same background, they had the same issues of being picked on, ostracized and mistreated, that led them down the path of where they were going. And plus their age was a factor too. I'm looking because I put up two different articles, kind of clipped them. And it's on the development of a child's, brain of knowing, right from wrong or logically. So I don't want to read these because one is actually from University of Rochester Medical Center. It says Understanding the Teen Brain. And it starts out, it says it doesn't matter how smart teens are or how well they scored on their SATs or ACTs. Good judgment isn't something they can excel in, at least not yet. I'm actually reading it anyway. I didn't really want to. The rational part of a teen's brain isn't fully developed and won't be until the age of 25 or so. This kid was 19. You see where I'm going with this. In fact, recent research has found that adult and teen brains work differently. Because I've heard this being incorporated would happen to this kid. The guy at work told me this. And I think Bill O'Reilly in Rush also might have mentioned this. Adults think with the prefrontal cortex, the brain's rational part. This is the part of the brain that responds to situations with good judgment and awareness of long-term consequences. Teens process information with I should remember this, oblongata. This is the emotional part. It says, in teens' brains, the connection between the emotional part of the brain and the decision-making center are still developing and not necessarily at the same rate. That's why teens experiencing overwhelming emotional input, they can't explain later what they were thinking. So this kid acted on pure, and there's more to it, pure adrenaline and emotion. So not on logic. That's why I don't think he's a monster. I'm just saying. They weren't thinking as much as they were feeling. Exactly what happened with this situation. And this has nothing to do with what happened with that kid. I'm putting this in there. So you got to look at everything. You can't just make a judgment call and call that a day. So there was another one from StanfordChildren.org, Understanding the Teen Brain. Pretty much says almost the same thing. Probably slightly worded differently here or there, but it's pretty much saying the same thing. So I had to dig a little further, and I don't know if this kid was on any, but I'm sure he was on some type of antidepressants because of all the issues he had. He had lost his father, then his mother, was pushed from home to home, being ostracized at work. He was an outcast at work. At school, he was ostracized at kids at school, probably picked on and probably was bullied, which made him into a bully, because I mentioned this before in a prior show. So I think the guy at work got me interested in learning more about this, but the kid, I don't know if he was, because I can't remember correctly on what was mentioned to me yesterday, was probably on some antidepressants, which are also a major issue with the way people don't think clearly, because a lot of these antidepressants have a boatload of, now you don't have to believe this, but a boatload of issues which include suicidal thoughts and homicidal thoughts. So I did look up. One was side effects on Paxil, and it was from drugs.com. I had a lot of different articles. There was one actually that pertains to what I'm talking about now from Time Magazine, so you can take that with a grain of salt. Top 10 legal drugs linked to violence. And it gives like 10 different antidepressant drugs. And Prozac was in there. And what else? Praxol, I think I mentioned. And there was another one that they possibly, like, these were like these mass murders that happened in schools in the last couple of years. These kids were on some type of. There was another one they mentioned. I found an article on, and the child was on 2 different antidepressants. Both were linked to, increase in anxiety level. So it's bad enough that their brain is still developing because these kids were underage, but then they be on antidepressants that cause emotional mix-ups, makes you hyper, gives you anxiety, makes you feel suicidal, and actually homicidal is not a good mix. Considering that these they're bad, the medicines just have massive side effects, and I do not believe in medications most of the time. There's some situations, medications do come in and they do help, but I think medications for many of the younger generation has replaced talk therapy if they have problems. So that is my issue with that whole thing. That, it's become a new type of therapy. So the doctors can take more patients and not really have to see them more than like 5 minutes. They don't want to sit and talk anymore. They just want to give you medicine. So, and I don't think that's the solution. So that's just my opinion, by the way. I'm looking back at that one because the one with the, because I'm trying to look for his name. Okay, James Holmes was also on antidepressants. He was the guy who shot up that movie theater, which I did not know that. He was on 2 different types or so of antidepressants. So there's a thing behind that, and it's the same. That's why these stories started to pop up of like, we did more research, finding out that there is a link to antidepressants, especially when you're on multiple ones. Like, you don't know how they're going to interact. And if you're of a younger age, you don't know even more so how it's going to affect this child's mind. So I found some article. It was from, looks like WND.com, and it's exclusive article. When was it dated? I'm not sure. It says 4 days ago. And it's titled, Media Ignoring One Crucial Factor in the Florida School Shooting. And they were going into his situation, and then also, I guess, because I didn't read the article thoroughly through, about this medication thing. This is like a new way of taking care of kids. It's just pump them up on antidepressants. Don't even bother finding out what is causing this issue. So that to me is the problem. It's not the problem that this kid is a monster. And I do got to mention one thing I heard on the radio today that really disturbed me. It was just actually this afternoon when I was out just quickly doing some shopping before I just did this show. And it's on this radio station that I listened to recently religiously. Like, I listen to it all the time because I don't listen to regular radio. I haven't done so in years. So I actually just basically pay for podcast on the talk show host I like. But this live radio station from Harrisburg I listened to, they were talking about, I don't know which show it was. It wasn't one of my regular shows. It was just whatever was on live. And it went back to, once again, to Nicholas Cruz. And it was like, this just does not stop with these cruel ideas of what to do with this boy. So the latest one I heard just this afternoon was this guy calls in and said, well, you know what? They should just donate all his body parts to people that can use them. It's like the guy is still alive. He's going to probably spend life in prison. And you're talking about making him, because he's, not accepted in our society. They're not even looking into the situation. Donate all his body parts except his brain. I'm not making this up. And I heard this, and the guy kept on repeating himself. Hey, there's a lot of people who need organs. Just donate all this boy's organs except his brain, because that's the part that we don't want. I mean, that to me feels like ruthless, colder than what that boy did, and more heartless. and just cannibalistic. So to me, I know cannibalism is eating the body parts, but I mean, it's not that far from that. So I get very disturbed by how people react. You do something, I don't care if it was something even a lot less criminal, a lot less harmful, where people aren't getting killed. I've seen it in my own life where people just focus on one person, because I'm in that situation now. I have been in that situation in the past. And they focus on one individual and they make that person into a monster. And why they do that is, we had this discussion yesterday, me and this guy I work with now, that people are just, it's something in mankind that they just love violence and destruction. They thrive on this. I'm not saying it exactly the way we had mentioned it yesterday, but it is so true. People thrive on violence, and they enjoy reading about this stuff. I think people are desensitized, not only in the situation of what this boy did, but more so on how to be more violent. So that, to me, just like that struck a heart. That struck not a heartstring, but it struck a nerve with me. That people, it scares me that people just want to, like, it reminds me of those old Frankenstein movies. They want to make a monster somewhere. They want to make someone into a monster. And I'm not talking people like Jeffrey Dahmer or Adolf Hitler or the Zodiac Killer. I'm talking about a child who has multiple problems. They ignore it. The kid has some outburst for whatever, because of medicine, because of just being pushed so far against a wall, theoretical wall, that they finally lose it. And then when they lose it, they make that person into a full-fledged monster. And they want to, going back to the Frankenstein thing, like from the movies back, in Hollywood, they want to pull out their torches and they want to torch this child. They want to kill this child. They want to mutilate the kid. Well, what's going to happen once you get your way and you destroy this monster you made? There's going to be another one, because you're going to find somebody else to make into the protagonist. So the problem here is you need to stop making these monsters. That's how you end this stuff. You make sure it doesn't happen. You look for red flags. You don't ostracize people. You don't pick on people. You don't bully them. You don't pick on the little kid who can't fend for himself, because that kid is going to come back and he's going to end up killing people. So that's just my opinion. I don't expect anybody to agree with me. I think maybe one or two will, but there will be more that don't. This one article that I mentioned from WND, in the article itself, I didn't know about this one, or at least forgot about it, was this child who also did a mass shooting. I don't know when it happened, but it's in Newtown, Connecticut, school shooter Adam Lanza. And you look at the kid, he doesn't look that incredibly different from the kid who did this murder now. And he looked like the nerdy, dorky kid that everybody enjoyed picking on. And these kids, though, are more pumped up anymore on medicine on top of it, to suppress suppress their quote unquote their depression, which is actually creating more problems, because these kids are still developing as children. So yeah, I mean, you got to look at the whole picture, folks. And that other one from WND, again, it was titled "Media Ignoring One Crucial Factor in Florida Shooting." That's the name of it. It says 4 days ago. So I try to look at the whole picture. I try not to be like other people. They look at what they want to, and they fly with that. Like, there is nothing else to look at anymore. There's just that that one focus of like, oh, we found our Frankenstein's creation. Now let's destroy it. And it's really, really scary. I have one from the Medium Corporation. It says Florida shooting another testament to America's mental health problem. So, again, I'm not going to go into this one. You can read it. I'm not sure when this was posted. I did pull up a bunch of articles, though. So there's more to these stories than meets the eye, but it's just like the thing with the Democrats making like Trump into a monster. I don't think it's that far from that. We got to make monsters and we got to destroy them. And then when that monster is destroyed, we got to make another one out of somebody. If it doesn't exist, we're going to make one. Don't worry. We're going to make some individual into the next monster. It's always one around the corner. So, and I don't know. It really it bothers me. I do have one from theguardian.com on Prozac can make people home. It literally is titled. It says Sexac. I can't. It's SEROXAT, and it's got to be some antidepressant. I just can't pronounce it. The other one I can, which everybody knows about because we've made jokes about it for years. But this one antidepressant and Prozac, it's in the title, can make people homicidal. Doctor Who found suicide risk, experts are ignoring the dangers of these medications. I apologize for messing up. That was actually in The Guardian, so I don't know if I had posted that elsewhere. But, in fact, I got to make sure to put that on my, in case people ask later on. My one friend did ask about something, and I try to keep a link for myself with this stuff that I use for my show. But, yeah, I mean, there's no hiding the truth, so no hiding the facts, but it seems like when it comes to, fake news and everything like that, if it does not promote their agenda, you're not going to hear about it. That's just the bottom line. So, I'm saving this stuff. Okay, yeah, it's going to go on my Facebook if it didn't already. I forgot to fully post it. So, yeah, there was a couple things that I wanted to mention, and that's the stuff I have done so far. Wow, it's almost 40 minutes into the show. I'm surprised. I'm impressed with myself. Let me play right now, by the way, the next segment, that I clipped. There's only like 2, I think, tonight I did. And plus that one in the beginning of the show. But the second one is from Bill O'Reilly, and, it's only 11 seconds. I cut it down. Him kind of almost saying similar things that I've just said. But this was a Bill O'Reilly show, by the way, if you're interested. You can go to his podcast on his webpage, and you can listen to him discussing the situation in Florida, and that was free. So let me play this 11 seconds right now. Let me do it.
You know why the kid did it. The kid didn't have anybody. All right, the school threw him out. He was expelled. He didn't have any friends, didn't have any parents, didn't have anybody looking out for him. And he just snapped.
Okay, so, yeah, you got to hear that. You heard it from Bill O'Reilly. There was more to it. That show was free, by the way, if you're interested in it. It was from the day after that school shooting. Bill O'Reilly had a special segment. So, I do have some other things I could talk about, but I don't think it's going to, it's not going to help with what I've, discussed it, or actually just change where my show was going. So maybe I'll just let it go, because there's a couple things. It just really, honestly, it just gets under my skin and it scares me that people are that disturbed, I can't even come up with the right word, that heartless. Like, they really just see somebody, they don't like the way they look or whatever, and they just automatically put those people and segregate them and just torture them to the point that these people act out in the most violent ways. The victim, in my opinion, I hate to say this, people are going to really come down on me on this, but they make the victims into these monsters. And when, you get pushed against a wall, anyone, I can't see anybody else acting any differently than what is happening with these kids, within reason, acting out the way they do. If you keep on harassing somebody, for say, and bullying them, eventually these kids are going to act out, and it's not going to be a pretty sight. And I think that's what's happening. That, again, I have no way to prove this, because I'm going to hear that. Well, do you have proof or evidence of this? Well, I'm sure if I did enough research, yeah, I can find it. Is it worth the time for me to convince 5 or 10 people? Not necessarily, not at all, because they're already stuck in their ways. People already made their decision on what they want to think and believe, and they don't agree with what I think or believe. And people don't want to hear this either, but I think I keep an open mind. At least this time I am. You can say what you want to in the past, but when this, because I've heard about this stuff for the last, again, at least 10 years or whatever, I'm just so sick and tired of it. And I think what makes it even more disturbing to hear this stuff is because you're seeing similar attacks with no no outburst from Trump. His outburst is just him, speaking up and saying what other people are afraid to say. He's not killing anybody. But the results are pretty similar, where they want him dead. They want him to get impeached. This man is awful. He's evil. And all these nasty, nasty freaking lies. Just are nonstop. So, and it's just like people just don't give up on attacking certain individuals. They just don't know when to stop. So, the reason I'm kind of talking still is because, when are you going to stop talking, Walter? I thought there was something a friend had sent me that I thought was interesting. Oh, here was a funny thing. I'm kind of boycotting right now. Probably will. That movie Black Panther, because it's going to turn into a whole racial thing. So, and I want to see a movie for the purpose I want to enjoy it. I don't want to see a movie because, this will redeem me from being the hateful Caucasian that I'm, made out to be. So I just, for that sole purpose, I don't want to go see that Marvel comic movie called Black Panther. So somebody actually posted, I thought it was really funny, so I put it on mine. And they put that the Black Panther, the first black superhero, with a question mark, because they said underneath of it, what about Dr. Benjamin Carson, who is a true hero, because back in '87 he successfully separated conjoined twins from their heads were conjoined. So that you won't hear about. You know why? Because he's conservative. So, that's for that sole purpose. He's not a hero. And he's I hate to say it, they make him out to be like some type of Uncle Tom. And it's you know what? It's stuff like that also just really bothers me. They make heroes out of fictional characters, but out of real people, never will hear that. And if you do, it's going to be glossed or changed into a fictional character. So, it's just it's nonsense basically. Okay, here's another thing I saw. I'm gonna round this up, by the way. It was a post I seen somebody put up, and it says, illegal refugees get $3,874 a month under the Federal Assistance Program, while our SSI checks are approximately $1,200 a month for an individual on SSI. So if you're an illegal immigrant, you get 4 times the amount of money for doing nothing besides just basically illegally coming into our country. So there you go. I did have other articles, but which would take it further and further away from what I was discussing, and I promised I wasn't going to do that. I started doing that. I want to stop, though. A friend did send me some article that was interesting, and I was going to talk about it really quickly because I find this person very hypocritical. Gentleman from the company Merck Incorporated, the CEO, stood up to President Trump. His name's Ken Frazier. Like, he basically walked out working with President Trump. I forget on what. And I'm trying to look at it right now. But this happened, last year? He was trying to, be real ballsy. And, I stood up to President Trump because I don't agree with what he stands for and everything like that. There's something that the CEO for Merck, who does not like Trump, just walked out on some type of situation where he had to work with Trump. So the thing I find funny, though, is the same man who has got the balls to stand up to Trump has now, from what I understand through the grapevine, is offering $1,000 stock options to his employees. So to me, that's being a hypocrite. You say you don't like this man. You don't like what he stands for. You call him pretty much everything, and including probably, because I'm just glancing over this as I'm talking, pretty much like a racist hypocrite. And yet you're the hypocrite, because I'm not mocking the people who are going to get this bonus. But isn't this exactly what other big corporations, because of how they're actually going to be doing better as a company, they're going to be more successful because of these tax breaks that, in my opinion, you seem like, Mr. Frazier, you're against, like everything else, because that's part of what Trump pushed for. Now, all of a sudden, you're giving your people a tax break not a tax break, a pretty much like a stock option bonus of $1,000. Isn't that what other companies are doing? Because the way they're benefiting from Trump's tax breaks. So, my opinion, usually if you don't agree with an individual, or you don't believe what that person stands for, I usually stick with that idea, and I don't change it, because, that just seems like, it doesn't seem like the appropriate thing to do. What am I saying? It's not appropriate. So I have to question that whole thing. I find that very, in my opinion, I find the whole thing very hypocritical. So I did want to kind of fit that in, and I wasn't going to mention that, but a friend texted it to me, so I have to mention it. Friend in my personal life. So, yeah. Other than that, just to let you know, the name of my episode, as I put it, was going to be called Jumping on the Bandwagon, because that's exactly what people are doing right now. Jumping on the bandwagon pertaining to this kid and how they should deal with him. Which most of the things I've heard on the radio or have read online has just been very disturbing, to say the least. I just want to say that. And in doing so, this is Walter from iWalter, and I will sign off for now. Thanks a lot, and I hope you enjoyed my show.